Welcome to Talkin Waukesha, the podcast where every conversation springs to life.
I'm Andrew Nofke.
And I'm Anthony Terrell.
And we're your hosts for today's journey into the heart of Waukesha.
Whether you're a local or just passing through, join us as we explore the stories, people, and hidden gems that make Waukesha truly special.
From community events to personal anecdotes, we're here to bring you the pulse of our vibrant town.
So grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and let's dive into another episode of Talkin Waukesha,
where every conversation springs to life. All right, so this is the first episode, and we're here with Mayor Shawn Reilly. He's going to be our first guest. Welcome to the podcast.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
So to start off, I guess tell us a little bit about yourself. What's the typical day of a mayor look like, and kind of what exactly a mayor does? Because there's a lot of people like, oh, the mayor doesn't do anything, but we see you. You're pretty busy. I mean, it's hard to get something on your calendar. So what does a mayor do?
Well, first thing is a mayor attends a lot of meetings and reads a lot of emails. That's probably the 90% of what I do. But I also run the Common Council meetings, Plan Commission meetings. I'm a member of the Waukesha Water Utility Commission. Attend quite a few of the other meetings, especially like finance when the budget's being done. The other thing is I am not in charge of the personnel issues, or we have a city administrator who does a lot of the interaction with department heads as well as with employees. I'm usually involved in that in some way, sometimes more intensely than in others. It really just depends upon whether, without getting into details, whether if it's something that I think the Common Council is going to be involved in, then I should be involved in it.
Right.
Also a lot of ceremonial things, cutting ribbons. In fact, last Friday, I one of my duties was to go to tap in golf and hit some golf balls to welcome them to the community. Have a beer. That was a tough job.
Yeah, you're so brave.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a real challenge. Sorry, you had to endure that.
On a Friday at 4, it's like it's. I'm willing to sacrifice for the city to do those type of things.
Well, we appreciate that, obviously.
Yeah.
So tell us a little more about your personal life, your family life, things like that.
Yeah. I mean, besides a mayor, tell us about you.
Sure. Well, I already kind of alluded to the fact that I like to golf. I like to canoe. I like to do camping and hiking. I like to be outside. I have a blended family now. I have 2 daughters from my first marriage that are older in their, one's almost in her late 20s and one's in her mid 20s. And then I got remarried about 3 years ago, and I have a 12-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 19-year-old.
That's quite an age range then.
Yeah. So and my house is full again. And there's always going to be dogs in the house too. They're always entertaining, let's put it that way.
How many dogs do you have?
2.
2? What kind? What are their names?
Howard Waukowitz.
Okay.
And Rocky.
So you're a Big Bang Theory fan, I'm guessing?
we yes, but also the kid's grandfather was his last name was Waukowitz, and we thought that would be good to call him Howard Waukowitz. But
very nice.
Yeah. What kind of dogs are they?
Mutts.
Okay.
Rescue dogs. One's they both have Chihuahua. One has Dachshund in him, and he's like a sausage. And then the other one also has Chihuahua with legs that are probably 2 feet long, and so they're very strange looking dogs. Both of them are strange looking dogs.
That reminds me, my grandparents, they kind of have a dog like that. It is like a Chihuahua mixed with, I think, whatever a wiener dog is. And she is at that weird, just really short and fat sausage where I feel like if you roll her, she'll just keep going.
I've seen Rocky is the Dachshund Chihuahua, and he's been running and ended up rolling. So
sometimes it's faster, I think.
Yeah, he probably is at some point.
Yeah, but for Rocky, it's very undignified. It upsets him greatly.
Sure.
So.
But it's funny for everyone else,
Yeah, maybe that's why it upsets him, because we're all laughing at him.
Yeah, laughing at him and not with him.
If he could laugh, maybe. I doubt it.
Yeah. So you've told us a little bit about your personal life and your mayoral life. How do you find the good way to make those kind of mesh together? Obviously, you're busy as a mayor. You're busy as a husband and a father. Like how do you make that work life balance really work for you?
I'll go back to what I said right before we started. I had a choice. You don't really have. I guess one, I was a municipal attorney before I was mayor. Attended many night meetings. I think that's the most difficult part of it. Is that maybe 2, sometimes 3 nights a week you're doing a night meeting, so you're not home. Your day starts. I'd like to start my day at 9:00 if I can. A lot of times it starts at a meeting this morning at 7:30, but then you just kind of stay at work until you're done. So last night our meeting lasted until 8:30. So you spend a lot of time at work. You hopefully have understanding. Other family members is what you really need.
Yeah.
But I do like my job a lot. I like to it's all the time that I do spend here. I enjoy it.
So what's the favorite part of your job then? If you can pick 1 or 2 things that are
Well, it's when you finally, I would say that the thing that I enjoy the most is when you, not just me, I want to say there's many people that will put in a ton of work to get something accomplished, and then when it is accomplished, that's a reason to celebrate. The water is probably the thing that comes to mind to me immediately. I worked on it the entire time I was mayor, but people worked on it for 10 years before that. So it's been 20 years in the making. We now have water from the Great Lakes. We have a new water supply system. And that was, the celebrations for acknowledging that were really special to me. Opening up Buckner Pool, City Hall, getting a new City Hall, a new fire station, some of the completion of the downtown road work and all that. Those are days where you just go, okay, we had the city of Waukesha accomplish something that's very special and made the city better. That's where you can really get a tremendous amount of enjoyment out of your job.
Yeah, so you've been mayor for 10 years, and it kind of seems like, just listening what you had there, it's almost like you've got like a proud dad moment of like, you're proud of everyone. Like, these are all the accomplishments, my kids have completed. And
that's actually
better.
A good way to say it too, because if any mayor is going to say, I accomplished this, and doesn't acknowledge all the other people, they're not doing a very good job, because the mayor isn't the one doing all the work, making all the decisions. If anything, the mayor can help shepherd it and plays a part in it, but the credit needs to be spread to all the people that made the job, made that thing happen.
Nice. So I wanted to go back. So you were saying before you were mayor, you were an attorney, my curiosity too. When you're in school, you studied. You got your bachelor's of science in political science.
You Googled me, didn't you?
We did some research.
Yeah. Okay.
So you got your bachelor's in political science. Where was it from? From Madison.
Yep.
Yes. So why political science? Why did you want to go into that?
Well, when I graduated from high school, I went to my first year was at La Crosse, and then after that I transferred to Madison, and I planned on becoming an attorney after I finished undergrad, going to law school and then becoming an attorney. My dad was an attorney here in Waukesha, had a small firm right on Clinton Street, and that firm's still there, and that's where I ended up working. But after I graduated from college, I did not want to go to school for another 3 years, so I ended up working in manufacturing facilities here in Waukesha. I then moved out to California without a job. A friend of mine was moving out there, and I just asked him if I could go along with them, and he said sure. And I went out there and I got a job the first day I was there working construction. I'd never worked construction before, but I was putting roofs on buildings, and someone was willing to teach me how to do the work. Obviously, I did a lot of work. I did all the physical labor for this guy. But then I learned the what's called sheeting. I learned the trade of sheeting and put roofs on buildings for 2.5, 3 years. Then at that point, I decided law school was a good idea again. But I needed to take that break from school. And then I went to law school out in Portland, Oregon at Lewis and Clark College.
Okay.
And then I moved back here right after that.
Sure. So you're just moving back here just because family was out here? Is where you're
Yeah, I mean,
from?
I'd been away for almost 6 years.
Okay.
And I loved growing up in Waukesha. I love like I said, I like to fish and to camp, and I loved our lakes. When I was in San Diego, there was really no lakes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
In Portland, Oregon, there's a lot of rivers. There weren't that many lakes.
Mm-hmm.
But once I was, as an attorney, I thought what really attracted me back was working with my dad in the law firm right here in Waukesha.
So again, with all those other hobbies you were just listing, you also you were known for your barbecue.
Yep.
How did that start? Where did that come from?
I call it a hobby gone awry, is what it is. So I had a couple of friends. One of them owned a restaurant, and he decided that he was gonna do a barbecue party. And Scott is his name. He never does anything.
Halfway.
Yeah, halfway. I was gonna say. I wanted to say half something.
Yep.
But he never does anything halfway. So he drove down to Texas, purchased a barbecue rig on a trailer. He was driving a Jimmy, which is a small SUV, and the trailer weighed about 8,000 pounds. Drove it back from Texas to Waukesha and had his barbecue party. And that's when we all decided, it's like, hey, let's be on a barbecue team. So we went and watched some of the barbecue competitions. The first one we watched was in Minnesota. It's called Minnesota in May. We watched that, and we're like, okay, we're going to form a barbecue team. We have a nice barbecue trailer with a barbecue smoker on it, and started doing that. That ended up with me, and instead of the smoker that was on it, I bought my own smoker. It's called an FE 500, which can hold 500 pounds of meat. So kind of went awry at that point for sure. And then Scott started a barbecue restaurant. Another of my friends who was on the barbecue team started a restaurant too. Both of those, Waukesha, one was in West Dallas, one was in Waukesha. The area, I think, the way I'm going to explain it, it wasn't ready for barbecue. And also, let's see, it was 2008, which also didn't help too. There was a recession.
Yeah.
There was a recession then. So both those things failed. I kind of got probably the better end of the stick because all I had, my financial outlay was a big, huge smoker that I still have. I haven't been using it that much in the last 2 years, but I was using it for city functions, did barbecue for Tribute Tuesdays, have done a lot of barbecue for city events and things like that for employees. I still do quite a bit of barbecue, but I'm doing it at home on a drum smoker in my backyard.
So what's your favorite smoked item, barbecued item?
Your go-to.
Yeah.
Well, it's hands down, it's brisket because I love it the most, and it's probably the most intensive labor-wise too because it smokes so long.
Right.
I'm doing pork shoulders now. I don't even really think about it. I can put 2 pork shoulders in there on the smoker, come back in a couple hours, put some more charcoal in, and come back, and then it's done, and pull it and put it in the refrigerator, and whoever wants to eat it can eat it. Brisket is a lot more art. You have to really be watching it. You have to keep the temperature as constant as you can. Barbecue tip for everyone is don't open your barbecue unless you have to. Keep the cover on because as soon as you take the cover off, what you're doing is bringing the temperature way down. The temperature then has to come up. You have fluctuations in the temperature. It's not going to help your cooking. It's not going to help the end product. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
Hey,
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I'm hungry based on the answer, so
Yeah,
that's part of that too.
same.
So sticking on the barbecue, probably one last one that's more the foodie in me. Do you go more by traditional methods of just using the thermometer that's on the grill, or do you have like probe thermometers, special technology that you use to kind of help make sure the end product is perfect?
I have a digital thermometer that I'll use on all the big pieces of meat. For steaks, I think everyone should be able to tell by touching it. If the best part is right in between your thumb and the finger next to it. It should feel like that, and then that's medium rare. Any harder, it's going to be more well done, and if it's too soft, then you probably should keep it on a little bit longer. Chicken, the juices run clear. Pork shoulder, obviously, you're going to put in a probe. You want to make and you want to make sure that the temperature may be more than enough for it to be done, but you also have to have it at that temperature for a long enough time to have the it break down so it's pullable and it's not tough. Brisket, that's one that you can kind of tell by feel too. If it gets floppy, then that's a pretty good indication that everything's broken down and it's gotten tender. But I still will use a digital thermometer, obviously.
Perfect.
I'm very hungry now.
Yeah. My one last one that popped in my mind while we were talking is, do you like dry rub, marinade, or barbecue sauce for application for grilled meats?
So chicken barbecue sauce, I don't put on any of the meats. I don't put sauce on until either it's almost done or afterwards. I don't put barbecue sauce on brisket unless it's when I'm serving it, it's on the side of the plate, and you dip it. I do like chicken with a barbecue sauce glaze. You can really, chicken is a meat conveyance.
Yeah.
So whatever you
it's
add
good at
to
carrying
it,
anything.
yeah. So the barbecue sauce can really make it. I like a vinegar sauce for a lot of different meats. But I always use a dry rub. For brisket, I'll use salt and pepper, fresh ground pepper, and kosher salt.
Okay.
For pork shoulder, I usually buy a rub, but it's one of the higher end rubs. And for ribs, I'll use salt and pepper, or maybe I just may see something and say, all right, I'll add something to that. And chicken, I like Lowry's.
Yeah, and it's hard to miss. They do everything right. That's usually my go-to as well.
Lowry's works pretty well.
You want a more personal question, or you want a more?
I don't know. Ask a personal question. I'll tell you whether I'll answer it.
Sure. So, I mean, you were talking about too how you went to California. Kind of, the way you were explaining it seemed like it was kind of just on a whim. Was that the most adventurous thing you've ever done? Have you done anything more adventurous, or what would you say?
I think Well, going to California, I told the guy I asked if I could go with them. He was driving out there. He had it all planned. He didn't have a whole lot planned. He knew he was going there. He didn't know where he was going to live and or anything like that. I just asked him if he would mind if I came along with him, and he said, "Well, you're going to fly home?" And I said, "I hope not." So I ended up staying out there. But I also went to Ireland right when I graduated from college, and my brother and I brought our bicycles over there, and and we did ride our bicycles through Ireland. We had 2 weeks for that, and I had a plane ride home, plane ticket for going home. And about 1.5 weeks into it, I told my brother Paul, it's like, I'm not going home. And he's like, really? He's like, what are you going to do? I said, keep riding my bike. We had some family friends over there, so I ended up working at a lot of different. I worked on a farm. I worked in B&B. And other than that, I just rode my bike around and traveled throughout Ireland for another 2 months. So I spent 2.5 months there. And it was very cool, except I've never been back. That's kind of the interesting thing. I do want to go back, but it will never compare to it because I'll be going back and renting a car and, driving around and seeing the sights and going, ooh, that's nice.
Yeah. Well, you can start biking now and get, ramped up again to it. And
yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen. It's all hills. So
yeah.
My brother and I thought, when we were going there, it's like, okay, Ireland's 300 miles long and 100 miles wide. And we were riding our bikes. We would ride our bikes 100 miles in a day, often. And it's like, we can cover Ireland, no problem. That's not the way it works whatsoever. Yeah. From the airport to, well, I can't remember the name of the place we were going to, but it was as the crow flies, it was about 30, 40 miles. On the bike, it was probably 80.
Just going up and down the hills.
Well, and that was without going through the mountain ranges. So we quickly learned that going from one place to another in Ireland was whatever you thought the distance was, probably double it, and it's going to take a lot of time. Mm-hmm. But it was a very, very cool trip.
Was it biking through all weather? If it's raining, just throwing a poncho or coat?
Yeah, you didn't have much choice. I mean, we did bike in a lot of rain. It was during the summer, and it was the summer that we were there was one of the driest summers they'd had ever up to that time for their history. So we didn't hit a whole bunch of rain. Everyone was kept on saying how hot it was, and it was like in the low 80s, and a lot of the Irish people were wilting, and we're like, this isn't bad.
Yeah, I get it. I wilt in anything above 80, but that's why I live in Wisconsin. -3 sounds like a glorious day sometimes, especially in the middle of summer.
I'm the opposite.
I was going to say, yeah, there's not, even Wisconsin people don't all have that attitude.
No, it's an acquired taste.
Definitely.
So kind of going back to mayoral duties. So right now the city's working on the strategic plan. And so that's a 5-year plan, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're looking at, yes, the strategic plan is 5 years. And also we're working on another plan for mapping out our finances for the next 5 years, which is different than what we had been doing. We've been mapping out capital expenditures for the next 5 years. Now we're doing everything. We're still in the process of working through that, though.
So in your tenure as mayor, what have you seen that's worked really well? What have you seen that changes that have happened that have been working really well, and how these efforts are going to help see Waukesha succeed in the 5, 10, 15 years to come?
Well, I already kind of talked about it before. I mean, I think we have phenomenal employees. I think the people who work for the city of Waukesha really care about the city of Waukesha and want to make it so that what we provide to the residents and the businesses is always going to be better. Infrastructure-wise, we've seen tons of improvements, and hopefully a lot of those infrastructure improvements are completed. We still have to continue maintaining the roads, but the water, the sewer, city hall, fire department, police station are all the infrastructure improvements have been taken care of. There possibly be some DPW things that need to be done, but that's one thing that I think is been taken care of. I'm sorry, your question was, what do I see in the future, or what in the past?
What are we working on now? What have you seen in the past that we can continue working on, or to it kind of gets going back kind of both of what's worked really well in the past and what are we doing? How is what we're doing now going to help moving forward?
Employee development is a good that we've been working on. We've had the leadership class, and we've also, I think, really reached out to our employees to try to make it so that they can do their job in the best environment that they can.
Could you describe the leadership class for anyone who's not familiar with it?
Sure. Well, is it twice a year?
I think it's been up to twice a year. I think it happens mostly once.
Usually it's once a year, and employees who want to sign up for it, they have to get their department director's approval. And I have not actually. I've never been in. It was Kevin Lehner and Rebecca that pretty much ran the leadership class, and now it's Rebecca and Tony. So I'm probably not the best person to describe it. But what I do know is that it brings together employees from all different departments. They spend a lot of time together. They're working on their leadership skills, but also leadership skills, helping all other people with their leadership skills. And what it's done is, probably the biggest thing is it has helped people from different departments know people from other departments and understand their job, and have those people understand the job that this person is doing. So we have, there's so much more. I'm going to use the word synergy, even though I don't like it. But we have employees that understand all the other departments, and what they basically get a greater knowledge of what the city needs to do, can do, has been doing, and think about how to make it even better. Yeah. I think that's what the leadership class does. We don't have to just do it all in the leadership class, but that's a great avenue of making it happen. And I'm going to give you guys a plug too, which is our amount of information that we push out from the city has been phenomenal compared to 10 years ago. 10 years ago, social media was, departments had their own social media, or they had none. There was no branding. It was different from each department. So I'm very, very proud of our social media presence in the community. I think what it does is it is the avenue to get information out about what we're doing, what people need to know. And before that, it was kind of the newspaper. And I know that people that are under 30 don't read a paper very often. And if they do, it's going to be digital. And even then, they're just looking for their articles. They're not I grew up reading the paper from front to back.
Right.
And in our house, we had 3 papers, the Freeman, the Journal, and the Sentinel. And those 3 papers came to the house every single day. Now, I think most people are getting it off of whatever their social media feeds are.
Right, those little bite-sized bits of information. It's how can I consume as much information as possible in the shortest amount of time. And
I have to say, social media is meant to be biased. It's supposed to, what they want to. Obviously, there's a lot of our social media isn't biased,
right?
But it's you're trying to put out information so that it can be very, very biased to get people to think the way you're thinking. I think our social media is, we want to provide the information so people can take advantage of whatever we're providing, so that we answer their questions. But we just, I think that's one place where the city has just absolutely shown. I was just talking to one of the alders last night, and it was like, remember when we got all our information on paper? They'd get it delivered to their house. The alders would get the packet, it was called, delivered to their house on Saturday or Sunday by a police officer, and that was all the information they had for the common council meeting. They'd go through a stack of paper that would be about an inch tall, and no one else in the community would get that unless they actually requested it through an open records request, and then they would be provided it. But now every single person who wants to see what's going to happen in a common council meeting or any of our meetings can go right on our website and look at every single document that the elected officials are looking at. Also, that's a huge improvement over what it was before.
Right. And just for transparency alone, I was talking with someone about it yesterday, that if we physically had to print out every attachment, every document that was inside of one council meeting, it would probably end up being 700 sheets of paper just to get out to the 15 alders and any directors that would need to be attending the meeting potentially. So it's a ecological saving even of just having it being digitally available for everyone.
Yes, and remember, then no one else really could be made aware of that information unless they were coming to City Hall and going through it, or requesting it and getting a copy. So
right, yeah, it's a big savings of not having to drive anyone out, not having to take officers away from the duty, any of their duties to get to the get delivered.
And it's just, a municipality needs to make sure that people can follow along with what decisions are being made and why. The big why is what information the alders are being provided. So that really helps everyone see if the city's doing a good job, or how they're making their decisions and what information is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The only other thing too I was thinking too. We even have the capability of live streaming to all of the meetings too.
Yep,
which
that's
just
right.
makes it even more accessible for people.
Yeah,
People either that aren't able to leave their house, or even people that aren't able to access it live. They can view it at a later time too, which is really nice.
there's a lot of information provided by being able to see what you can hear what they're saying, but also seeing how all the other reactions are. So the live streams are really good.
Yeah.
It's also a good way to keep a record. I like that we can go back and follow any type of action we've done, especially the ones that take years and years. You can find it through the number and go back and continue to watch the meetings and not have to listen, not have to go through them all. You can follow it very easily.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been times where, just out of my curiosity, I'll go back in the video records as far back as I can go and just see all the videos, even from back then, to completely different.
How far back can you go? Do you know?
I
I
don't
think it's
remember.
1996 is the farthest back that we've got in Granicus, but I'm not not
okay.
positive.
That's much longer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons we're staying with the platform we're on is you can go back up to 1996 of council meetings, and there was one I had just stumbled across where it was an ordinance and license meeting where the meetings last week I think was 45 minutes, and that meeting was 3 hours and 50 minutes.
It was very, very common to have multi-hour meetings, and now, like last night, seemed like a long meeting, and it went from 6 to 8:15.
Right, but yeah, I recommend people going back to that one. That'd be what day is today? Today's the
21st?
21st. So yeah, February 20th. Not to necessarily timestamp this one when we're recording this, but
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's good because it was a good ceremony for officers involved and a very strong act of bravery, basically. So yeah, a lot of good recognition there.
And the
too.
officer did such a great job of making this, kind of explaining, how difficult something like that is.
Right.
Just so for anyone listening, an officer was involved in a shooting. Actually, the officer was shot. His partner ended up shooting the individual, but both officers, it was in a house, both officers immediately removed themselves from the room, which is the standard process. And one of the officers had been shot, but they didn't know what his injuries were. And that was that's what he was speaking to pretty much is that, he was in this situation where he had to deal with trying to find where his injury was, but then unfortunately, a person passed from it, which was also very traumatic for the two officers.
Definitely.
And then just going through the whole aftermath of that too. So it was, and I really appreciated everything he had to say.
Yeah, I think it was very well spoken, and definitely with the good showing of all the officers that were there as well. It was a lot of familial support coming for the police.
Every single one of the officers knows that they could be in the exact same position.
Exactly.
And that's what they were thinking. They were there for their fellow officer, but it also means a lot to them to hear him as what he had to say, because they know that they could be in the exact same position, or even worse, obviously.
Yeah, kind of going on the talking about the police too. And you've been a mayor through some tough times for the city of Waukesha, and I know you've spoken frequently of how proud you are of our public safety officers, and be it fire, EMT, or police. How do you as a mayor kind of help support them through these tougher times? Like how have you seen them grow going through tragedies? Kind of.
Well, I think I did not know. My knowledge of what trauma is was much less than it is now, and I'm not just focused on police and fire. Obviously, we had our parade tragedy. That was the entire community going through trauma.
Definitely.
And prior to that, there was a shooting incident at a school, which turned out to be no one was injured, but the parents and the students also went through the fear of being something really terrible happening.
Definitely.
And that becomes trauma itself. But going back to the parade, what I kind of learned is people who weren't even there experienced trauma because
Definitely.
they knew that their child was marching. They may not have been there. They may have been in the parade. The immediate terror of wondering whether one of your loved ones is safe is trauma.
Right.
The people who all witnessed what happened, they experienced trauma, and that was pretty horrific for them. The people who were injured, the people who lost their lives and their families and all that. I guess what I've understood is what I've learned or what I take away from it is that, one, we have to acknowledge it. Two, you have to keep on, from my perspective, keep on telling people, okay, if you think you're having a problem, then you need to get some help.
Definitely.
And that's the police department. The officer last night alluded to that kind of. It's a different department. 15, 20 years ago, even with if this would happen, the parade would have happened 15, 20 years ago, there wouldn't have been as much focus on trying to get help. It's like, just, buckle up and
toughen up. Yeah.
It's like, you'll be fine. No, you talk about it. You work your way through it, however you're able to, and you face it, and you figure out how to reconcile all the things that happen to you, all your feelings, so that you can move forward from that. And the Grannies are a good example.
Yes.
Of that. I'm sure that many of them still have, nightmares and enormous feelings of loss and stuff like that. But what I said last night, which I really believe is they took the incident and they faced it, but they kept on going. They kept on dancing, and our officers need to do that too. And I think that's what last night, February 20th.
Yep.
I think that's what that officer said.
Definitely, yeah.
I need all you to help me. I need to work on this myself. I appreciate everything my family's done. I'm working on it. And then thanking the rest of the people who all helped him.
Right. Yeah. There's a big showing of community that's definitely been, constant since the tragedy, for sure. And it's always reassuring, with the Grannies always coming back and coming to the parade and showing, just because one thing happens, a tragedy happens, doesn't mean you don't stop dancing, you don't stop being happy. It's not easy either dealing with it.
You have to work at it. And I think, what I didn't say, which needs to be said, is the community support is enormous. I don't think you see other things happen throughout, let's say, I'm going to say the United States, because that's the ones I pay the most attention to. The response of the community is extremely important for how you end up on the other end of this. And Waukesha, our community, we did a phenomenal job.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think even thinking back of how much, like you said, U.S. support we had. The first year when we had the Light a Blue Light campaign, and, I believe we had international people that were submitting to that story map that we had of, here's my blue light that I'm lighting for Waukesha. I think we had one in Germany. We had a few in, East Coast, West Coast, but, just the outpouring of support that we've seen.
And I still see them too.
We even had the First Lady and Second Gentleman even come out too, for the memorial that we had at that time too, which was insane for me to even be a part of, even helping capture that as well. Surprised to how much
you had just started too, hadn't you?
Yeah, I had just started. Yeah, and I was in charge of taking those photos. So no stress, but
yeah, I missed that when I had COVID. That was a little disappointing. But when hearing that we've got the support of the federal government basically coming out to support the community, support those that passed, those that were injured, those that were emotionally hurt.
Yeah. Acknowledge the loss.
Yeah,
that's really what it is.
So kind of sticking in the same track, but do you have anything that you want to plug out there to help people, let them know about the Grady Park Memorial and,
Yeah, we're still raising funds. Yesterday, basically, we had great news, which is we're $150,000 short. But we were over 400,000 less than about a month ago.
Right.
So the community has really stepped up again to help. I'm very, very confident we'll get at least another 150. If we can get 250, that's even better. I mean, we're going to build this thing, and the community is going to gather around it and remember, and it'll be a memorial that will serve generations.
Definitely, yes.
If we do get more than we need, it's still going to be used for the memorial to maintain it. I guess even if you hear that we're only $20,000 short, you can still donate, and your money will go for that memorial to keep it in phenomenal shape in perpetuity.
And it looks like, I mean, Grady Park is a phenomenal location for it, where it's close to downtown. It's got the space. I mean, in my personal opinion, it's underutilized right now because it is a little bit of a smaller space. But looking at the rendering, seeing some of the tiles for the tile project, it's going to be a very inspirational area, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's also it's part of the Riverwalk that's still in downtown that hasn't been, I don't want to say developed, but has a purpose.
Right.
I actually have fished in there numerous times. Caught a nice walleye 2 years ago.
Oh.
I was really surprised. It was a good walleye.
Yeah.
Say for the river, that's
yeah.
you only see like the small panfish kind of.
I don't really want to give up my secrets, but I will. It was right next to the bridge where it goes there, and the water was pretty high, so the fish could move up and down. I think it was in May or something like that.
Okay.
I caught a really nice walleye in there, but kind of a digression. I think that I mean, our river walk is special. Not all communities want to have a river coming through the middle of the city, but then they don't all have where the river itself is activated, and we've been working on that. That's something that's relatively new for the city. I mean, 40 years ago, all the buildings had their backs to the river and weren't using the river, and it was not looked at really that much. Now the river is where everyone walks, where people look at it, nonstop, and it's part of our city, not something that's kind of hidden.
Right.
And this is one part of the river that it's such a great extension of our river walk. And it's going to have a really special meaning, too, because it's going to have that memorial there. I think we'll see a lot of people use that in future years as their place to, even if they weren't affected by the parade tragedy, to go down there and kind of read a book, think, do a walk up and down the river. But they'll feel comfortable there because it'll have such meaning.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to take it kind of 180 this whole thing, bring it on a more positive note now. I know we're a little in the
we were being
more
pretty
serious.
positive.
It is positive, yeah, right? Less serious.
There you go.
That's a better word. So you were talking about fishing as a hobby of yours. What other kind of things do you do to unwind? So you go home, you're done with the day. What does that look like for you? We know you're kind of your 9 to 5. Now what's your 5 to 9?
Yeah, unfortunately, I kind of already said 5 to 9 mini nights is here at City Hall.
So you're 7 to 9.
Yeah, my 8 to 10. But going out to, I love watching Packers, Brewers, some Bucks during the playoffs. I'm one of those guys where, I mean, I'll be watching every single playoff game, but may watch one Bucks game other than that. Sorry, Bucks. But and same with the Brewers, I'll pick up a game here and there. It's great on a weekday if you're just kind of sitting around and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I get to watch a Brewer game. That's nice. But I probably, I'll go to 1 or 2 games a year. Packer games, that's kind of going to be the religion where if the Packers are playing, you're going to watch them. I like doing that. Fish fries. Charlie Barron's is really funny to me because that's kind of the way I live my life, it seems like, I guess. Meeting friends for cribbage, playing cribbage, having dinners, usually in the summer, in the warmer weather, at friends' house and cooking outside. And everyone, I know a lot of foodies, so we usually eat pretty well. So I also have the group of friends. One of them is the guy I was with barbecue, doing the barbecue thing with, and every single St. Patrick's Day, we're going to meet somewhere in the country and spend 3 or 4 days celebrating our Irish heritage.
So I guess what going kind of off that idea, it's like if you have, you got 24 hours to do whatever you'd like, what would the ideal of the mayor be? You doesn't have to be necessarily be work, but work, leisure, any combo of that. What would the ideal day look like?
It kind of depends. I mean, is it raining and cold, or is it early spring and 65 degrees?
We'll go early spring and 65. I think.
I'm going to Kettle Moraine and trying to walk about 8 miles.
Wow.
Through the forest, and it may end up being 4 because I walk out so far and then I turn around and come back, and I really don't know how far I've walked. Or if I'm lost in my thoughts, I may walk out 5 miles and then I'll go, oh boy, I got a long ways to go. If I hit whitewater, I'm in trouble.
So are you one that kind of gets revitalized by going out in nature? If you're feeling a little drained, you'll go out to nature and just center yourself.
For my whole life, I've always loved being outside, and I don't do it enough. The chores of every day kind of get in the way. I mean, you're as you're asking me, what's your favorite thing to do? Well, I don't do my favorite thing that often. Like it may be doing a hike, but I'm not getting out on the hike because there's 16 things that need to be done at home. All the different things that you have to take care of the house and your cars and your banking and all that type of stuff. So my house needs to be painted. That has to happen sooner or later.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm like, all right, I got it. I'm starting to plan those early spring tasks and thinking about how it's 60 degrees outside today. I'm like, oh, that'd be a perfect day for it. But
it's so easy to plan them, but it's so difficult to do it.
Yeah, because you hit that one. It's like, okay, I've got nothing to do. Do I want to relax for the first time in 3 weeks, or?
Well, and also that leads me there's like you have a little plumbing project that needs to be done. It's maybe an hour, and 6 hours later you're finally finished because you made 4 trips to the hardware store and all that.
Sure.
Yep.
So now,
that's always fun.
If you could become an expert in any skill or hobby, just like instantly, what skill or hobby would you choose then?
Wow. I'm going to take out athletic because I'm 63 years old.
It's never too early to start. There's plenty of 60-year-olds who are playing pickleball now.
Yeah, well, that's true. I've been told that I better start playing pickleball. I did play racquetball for a long, long time, and
it seems easier at least.
Very, very similar. Well, I don't know if it's easier. It's very similar.
Right.
It's
I guess different fundamentals, but
it's a racket sport.
Yeah.
I didn't bring this up, but I do play Wordle every single day. So I would love to be, and I always check to see how I did against. There's a computer basically that says check to see how well you did, and if I had the mental capacity of the Wordle computer thing that says, this is you're always looking to eliminate letters or to find the right letters, and this is kind of it's not a big. I'm wasting my wish, I guess.
You're saying to get Wordle right first try every time?
Well, no, not to get it right, to do it so that you're doing it the most efficient.
Okay,
that's fair. Yeah.
So I have basically 2 strategies, and when I first started doing it, I'm not proud to admit it, but I would cheat by using another program to help you pick out words and all that. And now I probably use if I'm like at number 5 or 6. It's like, okay, I don't want to lose this streak. Then I may check it out, but it actually is something where I love waking up and that's usually the first thing I do. It's still dark out generally, at least now, and I do that, and so I'm using my automatic intelligence wish to be better at Wordle.
Yeah, that's a fun one. And
I love that.
Have you tried other varieties of Wordle, like Betweenal and Quirtle, where it's four of them at once, or anything like that?
No, and I'm not good enough at Wordle to move on to the next level.
That's fair. Yeah. So there's plenty of word games out there that are always
and also
always
that's
fun.
the other thing is I'm old enough that gaming to me is one of these things. I've never really got involved in it, but I think if I was 30 years younger, gaming may be my biggest time suck ever. So I try to avoid that. I love to read too, but if I read a book and I like it, I may not sleep.
You'll keep going into the next one.
The next day, I'll put it down and sleep an hour and wake up and going, "Whoa, boy, that was a bad mistake."
So what's your most favorite book that you've read semi recently, or just favorite book ever then?
Well, I like the science fiction fantasy. So The Hobbit and all those, basically something like that.
Okay.
I probably read The Hobbit and the other books, the trilogy, 4 or 5 times. And I think that's a series you can pick up and read every 5 years and still get
Find
involved
something
in
new.
it. Yeah.
So how do you feel about the movies compared to the books then?
I like the movies.
Okay.
I'm usually one who, I look at a movie, it's like, let me escape. A lot of movies that are panned, or people say that, it wasn't, I wasn't happy with it. I usually like, that, for me, it did what it needed to do, which is
visualize the experience and got you away
take you away, and I'm able to know that everyone is going to portray things differently and not get, it's like, you didn't do it the way I thought it should be done.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point too. 'Cause I always say people that adapt books from movies, when they say it's not the same, well, it shouldn't be the same.
It can't be the same.
If you wanted that experience, then just go read the book.
Well, and also, I mean, I don't know about you, but when I read a book, there's pictures in my head.
Yeah.
So you kind of set those expectations of, this is how the character looks in my mind.
And if anything, the pictures in my head are nowhere near as developed as what's in the movie.
Yeah. Like, I did not think Viggo Mortensen would be Aragorn, but all right, fine.
I just realized that, well, maybe you guys I didn't upset, but I upset the rest of IT because it wasn't,
Star Wars.
It wasn't science fiction, it's fantasy.
Yeah.
I kind of lump them all kind of together in, high fantasy, sci-fi. Like it's all very similar.
I like science fiction too. I like dystopias. For some reason, I guess that's better than horror movies, but it's still kind of a dark side.
So Mad Max, Book of Eli, those kind of.
Yeah, and just even the books. There's a lot of I probably wouldn't be able to name many of them, but the books that are dystopias too.
Dune, I think. Have you read the Dune series?
I don't know if Dune is dystopia.
It's interesting. Okay,
it's
otherworldly, I suppose.
It's otherworldly, but like Mad Max is dystopia.
Yeah, 100%,
everything's falling apart, and I guess Dune is too. And Star Wars is a dystopia then too. But A Boy and His Dog is a dystopia. It's basically the world ends, and there's a boy and his dog, and how they get through it.
Yeah, I am Legend.
I Am Legend. Yeah,
it's a very similar premise.
Yep.
You had asked us earlier if we had done our research, and we used Google thoroughly. So we had read that your parents had exchange students frequently. Did they have exchange students while you were growing up, or was that kind of before you were born?
It was informal exchange. No, it was while I was growing up, and actually I was 15, 16, 17. What it was students from Carroll. They were going to Carroll University, Carroll College at that point, and they lived in the Virgin Islands, and they weren't going home for Christmas.
Okay.
They couldn't afford to go home, and the dorms all closed. So my dad got a call from his brother who lives down in Florida, and it was Uncle Pat, and he knew the brother of one of the people from the Virgin Islands that was at Carroll University, and he called my dad and said, "Hey, I have a friend. One of my friends, his brother is at Carroll and needs a place to stay during Christmas break." And my dad's like, "Yeah, fine, whatever. Just give him my phone number, have him call me, and he can come over." Well, it turned out that Alberto was the guy from Carroll, and like 10 of his friends all needed a place to stay. And over the year, and that just developed into, and obviously I have a very big family. I have 8 brothers and sisters.
8 total or 8 of each?
No, 8 total.
Okay.
No, all right. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that.
8 siblings.
8 siblings. Okay, perfect.
So 9 kids. And so actually the first year was Alberto and Ingrid. They came and stayed because they had nowhere else to stay. Then at Easter, we got to know them real well. We played Risk all night long with them and stuff like that. At Easter, some of them, you'd come over on Sundays. My dad would say to all the people from Virgin Islands, "You're welcome on Sunday. You have to go to church, and then I'll feed you." And so that went on for probably 10 years with success of people from the Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico. I think Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. People who were going to Carroll, and it was just one of those things where yes, I have another 4 or 5 other brothers and sisters that I think of that are either Puerto Rican or Virgin Islands, and went to Carroll, and now they live in the Virgin Islands. They live in New York and Amsterdam. Trying to think where else. Atlanta. All over the
seems
United
like
States.
you stay in touch with them pretty well then.
Yeah, especially during COVID, we did Zoom, and we all would get on the Zoom call together. That was probably the most we'd been together. And then my mom passed away, and when my dad passed away in 2007, they all came for that. They will say that's their second mom and dad, and then my mom passed away, and they all came back for that too. So it's their family.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah, it is neat.
No, I think we kind of covered it all. My final question that I'm gonna be trying to ask everyone at the end of all of our podcasts. So if you could go back in time and tell yourself something, either words of advice or just something that you wish you would rather do instead, what is something that you would tell your younger self?
Be more confident in yourself. And that I would tell that to anyone. It's confidence is what makes you happy and also allows you to do so much more. The back of your head saying, I don't think I should do that. I'm not smart enough. I'm afraid of what if it doesn't work, all that. It's like, be confident in yourself, not be confident in yourself.
Wonderful.
Great.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you for being the first guest on Talkin Waukesha.
All right.
Is there anything else you want to say to listeners, residents, anything like that? Any messaging, plugs, anything like that?
We live and work in the best city in the world.
And that's a wrap for another episode of Talkin Waukesha. We hope you enjoyed diving into the heart of our city with us.
If you have a story to share or just want to say hello, reach out to us on social media at City of Waukesha on Facebook. We love hearing from our listeners.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review if you enjoyed the conversation. It really helps us spread the word.
As always, thanks for tuning in to Talkin Waukesha, where every conversation springs to life.